So,
Just for clarification, whenever this goes to the voters, you said that there will be individual items for them to vote on, to approve and not approve. I don't know, but there's going to be clumps of groups.
Yeah, great point. There'll be groups. So typically in the past, there's certain things that it'll circle around. So sometimes it'll be, I think we had public safety was a group, and that included both building and equipment. So we had fire truck, and then we had the public safety complex the last time. We've had, streets and drainage that we grouped together because they're the same system. So there's lots of different ways that those things can be grouped together.
Okay, for example, Tower Green is going to be a hot topic. There's a lot of people that want it, there's some people that don't want it. So is that going to be an individual item on a bond election if we choose to put that on there that people can vote for? Because I feel like something like that should be decided by the citizen individually. It should be grouped, or you could potentially lose a lot within that group, and it could be hidden, and people feel like, well, I need to vote for that, so I'm going to go ahead and vote for that as well. So I'm just asking, how much can you carve out to be able to?
I think if we have 40 individual items and you all wanted to have 40 questions, you can legally do that.
it's not a hot topic in terms of, I think my world that I run in, likes and dislikes, priorities or not. Yes, see that as a priority or not. There are some people that don't see it as a priority, without question. There's been a tremendous amount of support given to me and the community, certainly in my election process. There was a great, significant amount of support, people that support the idea of moving forward with some of these ideas that we've talked about for several years.
And typically, how we've handled that in the past, you have your 70%, your 30% there. Ultimately, the council decide what is priority and what are discretionary.
Mayor, members of the council, Joel Rabin. Dr. Callahan asked a really interesting question at your last meeting, and that was, could the Price Green Park project be separated out as a separate yes-no vote on the upcoming GO bond vote? And it's going to be real interesting to see what the city council does with that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Tower Green. Let's all get warm and fuzzy about this one. All right. Now this is a project that is to develop a community green in the downtown area. This was part of the original downtown master plan that was done back in 2003 and 2004. Another plan done by the community. Mr. Amber was there, and he remembers all those people who came in to the community center. We all sat and drew pretty pictures about what we all want someday in the future. This was one of those projects.
How long has this been talked about now?
Well, it was the concept of having a central hub was part of the 2003 downtown
I think we would
plan.
be doing everyone a disservice if we don't put it on this bond election and let people decide whether they want it or not. Then, like I said, just carve it out and let people vote on it. If they don't want it, they don't want it.
Parks and Recreation, this could be another category. And on this category, as you can see, we've got the Price Fields Phase 3. This excludes the intersection improvements. We have that on for 3.6. Obviously, we'll evaluate a quad there instead of the 3/5, and we'll have both of those options for the council to make a decision on. That is in 3-year, and this was the final one. As I said, obviously, staff has no preference. But there was some discussion about this being included either in the 3, 5, or 7. There was a good conversation about putting it by itself so that it's still alone. There was a lot of controversy and a lot of discussion of it. So a lot of interest and passion about it as well. So based on what I've put together, these are the totals. Facilities, equipment, parks and rec, storm drainage, streets, and public green space. You can see it's about $14 million in the 3-year. About $22 million in the 5-year, and about $26.7 in the 7-year. Obviously, that leaves a little bit of money based on the capacities that we've discussed, with the 3-year being $15 million, and the 5-year being 23.7, and the 7-year was $35 million.
Then we move on to the Parks and Recreation section, which is a large section. We've got the Price Fields Phase 3. We've currently got $3,150,000 shown on that. Now, we will come back to this because there are going to be 2 options for that. As you guys are aware, there's a 3-field configuration. This is a 3-field configuration that lines up with the master plan that was approved, I guess it would be 2 years ago. And but then there is another option for a 4-field configuration. Then we move on then to what we call, it could be a park project, could be held out on its own. Currently, we're showing that it's own freestanding project. And I believe one of the public spoke about that earlier, but it's the Price Tower Green, so a public green space. We've got $1,750,000 proposed for that project, and we'll show all of that here in a minute. And then, so in summary, you've got kind of two options you're looking at. Actually, I guess the options are endless, but hopefully it's two options we're looking at tonight, as we've been doing the last 4 weeks of going through this. But we've got $15,770,000 worth of projects if we go with the three-field configuration of price fields. So we've got $16,220,000 proposed if we go with the four-field option. And this gives you the breakdown of the various different categories. So what we're looking for tonight essentially is council action on a few items. So we really first need to approve the list of projects. So as part of that, we'll have to approve whether we do a three-field or four-field option, and then again all the other projects. We need to approve the priority projects. So we have proposed certain priority projects, but with that theoretically could change. So we need to approve the priority projects, the 70% projects. We need to approve the groupings, which is the different categories. And again, we can approve this as is, but again, it may look just a hair different depending on how things go with the legal group once we select the projects. And then we just need to select the election date. We highlighted March 6th as that was past few meetings, that was kind of targeted. So with that, try to answer any questions you may have.
Excuse me. The designation that we currently have on this document that you provided to us about the green space, I think you had said this, but I want to make sure I'm clear. There's no legal impediment of including that with Parks and Recreation. So
that is my understanding. Yes, that could be a Parks and Recreation project.
And as far as, is there actually a green space designation that our bond council has passed on? Or do you know that?
No, in the conversations with him, since it's a standalone project, it really will be a Parks and Rec type project from a legal perspective. But essentially on the ballot, we could put public green space. I mean, you could simply have a ballot question titled Price Tower Green or the Tower Green project. So it's whatever we choose to call it. But legally, it will be a Parks and Rec type project.
And then the Tower Green is the other really large project at 175 as far as parks. That and Pricefield are the two big ones. I think we've seen this and understand the different aspects of it. From a technical aspect, there's a plan for an operating committee to solicit funds and revenue sources so that the city would not be asked for funding to support this once it was constructed, was what I was told.
That's correct.
That being the case, Mr. Maddox, since this is a city-owned property, would that Tower Green committee then become another of the committees, authorities, commissions that the city council appoints and oversees that reports under open meetings, open records?
Back on the Tower Green committee?
The operating committee there?
The city council wouldn't really appoint them. That'd be appointed by the Price Tower and the community.
Under whose authority would that fall, since it's on city-owned property?
Well, eventually it would fall to the city.
Okay.
Ultimately,
Yeah.
it
I
would
guess
be the city because they would have their authority as a result of the city giving it to them.
much like other authorities that we have.
Right.
I guess that was my question. So the city would be at least contemplating creating another committee to have oversight, make sure that all those things function under the open meetings, open records, as
Yeah.
we do with all brothers.
That's correct.
Okay. So it would not be divorced from the city, I guess is my point. Okay. That takes us to number 3, groupings. And as Mr. Seamers presented this, tried to make notes here, there were 5 basic groups laid out: streets for $5,045,000, equipment for $1,965,000, parks, we do 4 fields, $6,385,000, drainage at $1,075,000, and the Tower Green at $175,000. I think there's no limitations, as Mr. Jensen has already mentioned. The Tower Green could be folded into parks, bringing that up to roughly $8 million, a little over. The other extreme, price fields could be pulled out and made a separate. So you could have 4, 5, or 6 ballot questions. November ballots have as many as 4 or 5 pages. I don't know how many that is, 15, 20, 30 items. I have every confidence that our voters could comprehend any of those without difficulty. I think the question in my mind would be, an $8 million parks deal, by rolling everything together, does that improve its desirability, or would people prefer to support what they want to support and have choices? And I'm sure there are arguments both ways for that. But that would really, I think, where we would be on this particular point.
And so I guess my preference would be to include Price Tower with Parks and Recreation. That seems like a more straightforward thing, and I know that $8 million is a fairly good sum. But I also understand that we're kind of catching up on this area. And maybe we're in a position now, especially with that first year of 10 million capacity, that gives us that opportunity. And the significance of what the county can see can probably not be overstated. In fact, it'll probably just be shocking how much change there's going to be, that it's going to be shocking in a good way. So I think the most straightforward way is to actually include that into Parks and Recreation, unless, I know Mr. Curry has been on that committee, and if he feels that that's not a good idea, then, or further discussion indicates that it's not, I think it would be the way to go with it. That way, we're making a decision, and it seems to break down, in my mind, along what would be natural breaks, the facilities, park and recreations, storm water, and then the streets, and I think that's what actually is required by our bond council for the law. And it would also give folks somewhat of a choice, but we're not going to break down each one of them so that we say, okay, well, I want that one, I want that. It's not really a decision by plebiscite, it's more of a decision about these are the areas that the leaders have, after a lot of thinking, have come up with, and these are the ones we think are the best bond at this point.
I've really been on both sides of this particular question, and have weighed pros and cons, and even as late as early this afternoon, I was a little unsure. But I think that having that project grouped in with Parks and Recreation accomplishes something that I think is important, which treats all user groups that are affected by these projects equally and fairly. It allows for a complete presentation from this council, a vision for community progress. And as you mentioned, Mayor, there's not one person, including members of this council, quite frankly, that will be supportive of 100% of projects in the GEO-bond. The hope is that a proposed list would adequately address members of our community and address their needs and desires of as many of our community's user groups as possible, and to kind of cherry pick, I guess, a particular project and move it outside, I think is not the correct action. That's my opinion.
My personal opinions, I would prefer to see them. I have seen bond issues in town when people preferred one thing and not another, and chose to vote against the whole package as opposed to approving it with things they did not agree with. I've had people contact me on both sides of this issue, and both sides are very persuasive and very sincere, and I don't disagree with either one of them. Experience tells me that even pulling the Price Fields out as a separate consideration might have wisdom to it. Ultimately, I have one vote, so the wisdom of this council will prevail, with no doubt.
Mayor, if I could just kind of sum up, I think Councilman Kane made several good points, as did a good friend next to me here. You know, this group of projects is a group of projects we've all been talking about for several years. It's come about by a large group of people that support the idea of taking care of our parks, improving our parks, and expanding our amenities in town for a variety of reasons. A lot of which are to continue to attract people to this town for events, for things like we're having on our skate rink right now downtown, which is a large success at this point. People are in town every day. Restaurants are full downtown. I've got new people in my restaurant that have been here for that. So certainly the Tower Green project represents that opportunity to drive more people to town. And from the comments that we had out here earlier today, you know, it is a transformational project to actually get in the business of having a green space and a gathering space where the community can continue to find ways to connect with each other. It's a diverse group of people we have in the community today, between the ages that we have. And when you find events like this or the skating rink, you find people coming together and connecting from all different socioeconomic groups. And I think that's been a large measure of the success that they've had down at Tulsa to Guthrie Green. You go down there any given day and see people, older age people to young people, utilizing that facility and those restaurants down there. So, you know, when you group these together, it is a vision. It's been had by many people over the last couple of years. And it's a transformational group of projects that I think would vote on as a group and a package, and that's why we go to try to present it to the voters. That it's something that well, we hope will have a large major, a real impact on Bartlesville in the future years.
Don't disagree with any of that. I would prefer to let the voters decide.
I wasn't arguing with you.
No, I would prefer to let the voters make those decisions than the four of us. That we would present the options and then they would decide. I put great faith and stock in the wisdom of our voters. And there's a quiet group out there that may not attend meetings, but they do attend elections, so time would tell. But I think all these are great projects. Don't have anything against any of them. I just prefer to see them presented separately. So, moving to election day.
I certainly move that we approve from the approved list of projects, the Pricefields number 4 option. I move that we approve the priority list of 70% as stated, we went over. I would approve the groupings to include Price Tower in the Parks projects and Pricefields in that project, in that grouping. And would certainly make a motion to approve the March 6, 2018 as the election date.
Mr. Kurd?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Gentry?
Aye.
Mayor Copeland?
No, and that does pass.
I'm Joel Rabin, and I approve this ad.